Welcome back to the lab, my friends. I, of course, am your host, Bryce Prescott. And today I'm going to do something a little different. I've done this a few different times over the course of recording my podcast, and it went reasonably well. And that is, I just showed up to my recording session here with some ideas on my mind, no real notes, no real script, but yet a framework that I wanted to discuss with you. I wanted to share with you a really empowering and impactful experience that I had not too long ago. I was walking in my neighborhood, and it was morning time, and it was before my weekly lab call. Every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time, I have my lab group experience, which is an incredible community full of people that are like-minded, that are going for their dreams, that understand that we need community, we need guidance, we need good information. In order to do that, the best place to do it is in a community like the lab. And I just so happen to be the person that started it and lead it. As a part of that leadership mantle that I've taken upon myself includes a responsibility to make sure that I'm prepared. That every time we have a call, that I am inspired and in tune with the needs and tone of what's happening with those individuals there. And so this particular morning on my walk, I was paying attention to that. I was open to inspiration. I was open to whatever it needed to be. I said a short but yet direct prayer before I went on my walk, saying, please, God, open my mind and heart to know exactly what it is these individuals that I am steward over need. I started walking. I did my normal route, which in my neighborhood is pretty awesome, I'm being honest. I live in a pretty affluent neighborhood, and when you go around the corner and up the hill, there are some ridiculously incredible houses. You heard me talk about one of those houses as my dream house, as the focus of my manifestation. I have envisioned and visualized myself every day living in this house. I am paying attention to the discomfort associated with what's missing for me to be able to afford and live there. And it's just a whole process. It's really, really cool. I've talked a lot about that in other podcasts. I don't need to go into too much detail here about it. But I was walking by, and I just felt the goosebumps. I felt the whole thing looking at that house, imagining myself there. There's a place up on the deck where there's an infinity pool, and there's these two adjacent pillars that have fire on top of them, like fire features. And I imagine myself every time I walk by, I look up, and I see a version of myself in the future, and I give myself a little salute saying, I'm coming, my man. I am working on becoming the man that can do this. And then I walk on. Well, this specific morning, it was exactly the same. And I walked to the top of the hill where I normally turn around. I start turning around, and I'm just paying attention. I'm just walking, listening to the inspiration. And the music that I was listening to at the time was soundtrack music. I find a lot of joy in listening to Hans Zimmer film scores. I like John Williams, James Horner, some of the major film score composers of our time, I believe, are our version of Mozart, Beethoven, Bach, etc. I get a kick out of it. It's very cinematic. And I'm walking down the hill, having just passed the home, which is my home, and or my future home, I should say. And I hear the song Outro by M83 come across my ears. Now, if you've never heard that song, I highly recommend it. I'll put a Spotify link in the show notes for this so you can go right to it. But it's a very cinematic song, and it has about a minute in a lull where it just kind of goes quiet, and you hear some rumblings, and there's some noise and whatnot, and then the cinematic arc of the song starts going out. I'm walking down the hill, and I notice something. I notice that as I'm walking, I'm looking down. Looking at my feet. I'm looking at the pavement. I'm making sure that I'm watching where I'm going, but I am missing an entire vista of sky, beautiful homes, scenery, desert landscape. If I would just, and in the song, it becomes this really powerful moment. And the lyrics of the song says, now and forever, I am your king. And right as this moment blasts across my ears, I hear the words, look up, in my mind. And so I do. Now, to paint a better picture of this moment, It's a very powerfully emotional moment. I catch myself looking down. I hear in this crucial part of this beautiful cinematic score, this lyric that says, "Now and forever, I am your king." I had prayed to God before I went on my walk, asking for inspiration to know what to share with the members of the lab. And I found myself even having another inspired moment as I gave myself the salute, walking by my house, or my future house. In this moment, I feel this overwhelming feeling of emotion, and I look up. And as I look up and I stare at the sky, it's the beautiful blue morning sky. There's very few clouds, but it just seemed closer than normal. And those words kept coming to my mind. Look up, look up. And it started me down a train of thought that reminded me about how important it is to look up, that we don't look up enough, that quite literally looking up is a posture. It's something that shifts with the tilt of our neck and the rise of our eyes. Where our gaze goes is a direct result of the posture of our bodies. And so I'm looking up in the sky and I feel emotion to such an intensity, tears start to fall. I start to just feel it all over my body. I start to feel that this is the answer. This is what not only the lab needs to hear, but the world needs to hear. They need the reminder to look up. And also the reminder that shame and guilt and sorrow and depression look down. And so the life that we choose to live is clearly a mechanism. Very first part is we have to look up. As I finished walking and I was weeping and enjoying just the flood of emotion, I had some other real deeply personal revelations come to me in that moment. And I thought about those things and I got closer and back to my home and I started realizing something. I started realizing how we make looking up more difficult than it needs to be. That there is literally nothing to lose by being optimistic. By choosing to look up at everything in your life and not only hope for, but to start expecting the best outcome, the best result, the best environment, the best scenario. It costs us nothing. If anything, it's an investment in the likelihood of experiencing. Skepticism costs us a lot. It costs us the joy of the moment, costs us the hope of what could be. It chips away at our faith. But yet optimism and looking up is none of it. And even in the event that the very thing to which you are hoping for, having faith for, looking up to and toward, does not happen, your lived experience was at least more hopeful, more exciting, anticipating what could be. Now, as I started thinking about this podcast, I didn't want to script any of it. I didn't want to read it off a teleprompter. I didn't even want to have an outline. I wanted to just sit down and let the Spirit, so to speak, work through me. Sometimes the Spirit moves. And I don't mean that in a very literal sort of religious way, but I mean that there is a spirit of inspiration that comes over all of us when we do look. This podcast that's being released is one that was recorded after last week's podcast that I thought I lost. I had shared in the podcast that hasn't been released yet my experience of telling jokes with Jeff Dye in a comedy club setting as his opener, doing an improv comedy show, getting back on the horse and allowing that part of my personality to be let off timeout for a moment. And that too was a mechanism of my looking up. And what I want to do is I want to encourage you right now and ask you specifically, where in your life can you look up? Where in your life are you giving too much power towards negativity, towards gloom, towards rumination? Where are you looking for the holes in the game instead of benefits? Where is it that you are robbing yourself of a moment similar to mine, where the accumulation of all of your senses come to be and allow you to feel very, very close It's a deity. I want you to look at that, and I want you to consider what that would be. It's been an interesting couple weeks since that experience happened, because in that, things have continued to go well. I've had my moments where I've been, of course, looking up and being excited for things to happen. Of course, I've had things that didn't work out, and of course, I've had things that weren't exactly what I planned. They didn't seem to sting much. There was a healing balm that came by being optimistic and hopeful. And one of the key parts of that, I think one of the key parts of the law of attraction, of manifesting, and naturally of creating your best life, is that I stayed in motion. Being in motion is the facilitator for every important thing you would ever want to experience in life. Every aspect of your best dream life requires you to be and stay in motion. It's the motion that puts you in new environments. It's the motion that lets you meet new people. It's the motion that lets you have new skills that you learn, develop. And it's the motion that gives you hope, because now you are starting to have the things that you want feel more and more familiar. I like to remind people in my lab group and just general clients that the achievement of your goals is not a black and white experience. It's a spectrum. If you were to map out for yourself, as I've referenced in other episodes, your lists of 100 material items, 100 experiences that would make up your best life, you will notice that if you were to get all of those all at once, it would be extremely overwhelming and you wouldn't be able to handle it. And so life and the life you're going towards is on the spectrum. And so this encouragement to both look up and to stay in motion is an encouragement and an invitation for you to experience a piece of that best life today by allowing yourself to feel happy about where you are, to be thankful for the blessings in your life, to then, of course, when you complete your goals or do what you say, you reward yourself in ways that inch you towards, on that spectrum, the other side where you have everything. It really is that simple. Now, it doesn't mean that it's easy, because there is difficulty associated with getting out of our own way and allowing programs that are currently running in your mind and in your body to attempt to sabotage you away from both looking up and staying in motion. The beautiful part is that you have control. You don't have to let sabotage you. When you can have moments of stillness every single day via meditation or visualization, and I would even add to that breath work, you will find yourself being made aware in your internal state of the sabotage that you complete against yourself. You will start to see the patterns in a deeper, more intricate way that allow you to know exactly what's going on. You will allow yourself then to make course corrections, or then to start to fortify the thing that's causing you to sabotage yourself. We've been blessed with the ability to create self-awareness. And taking it even a step further, there's a concept called metacognition, which is where you can actually observe your thoughts. And you can question your own thoughts when you find thoughts that are entering into your mind that do not support your best life, that do not support your best decisions, thoughts that could be an attempt to help sabotage you away from those two things. But when you can start to ask yourself, what's the purpose of that thought? Is it helping me? You can then separate yourself from having to feed that thought. You can feel the emotions associated with these moments, but you do not have to feed them. You can thank them for reminding you that they still exist there, and then you can move along. It's truly through the resistance of our sabotage, of our emotions, that we find ourselves creating more tension for ourselves. Now, when I say the resistance to our sabotage, I do not mean that we should allow ourselves to sabotage. I mean that we should allow ourselves to see where we are sabotaging ourselves. And then in that moment, we can make adjustments, shifts, realign ourselves. Now, to close this episode out, I want to invite you to look up. I'd like to invite you to get in motion. to allow yourself the benefit of experiencing a sliver of success today so that it can build upon what you're already trying to accomplish. I'd like to encourage you today to get out of your own way, to see yourself as you are, which is an incredibly capable, powerful, insightful human being. It has all of the world at its fingertips. Every resource you could ever desire is close upon if you're only willing to see. Friends, that's all I got for you. You're listening to The Lab. I'm your host, Bryce Prescott. And like I always say, until next time, take it a day at a time. I'll see you.